All right, so today we are talking with Chris Gallahar, lead chemist, and we're talking about waterless wash. It's kind of an unsung hero, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand like the purpose of it or how it works. You know, I think a lot of people default to foaming their car down and doing the whole wash. This sometimes can be just as effective. And can you kind of walk me through the formulation of a waterless wash?
Yeah, so this is probably one of my personal favorite kind of car care categories. Very complicated formulas, you know, on the face of it, they seem really simplistic. And, you know, a lot of people criticize that it's just water and you're afraid of scratching your car and things, but you know, a formula like that one is close to 20 ingredients within that blend. So they're actually quite complicated. It's very similar to if you were to mash together soap formulation, a detail spray, a cleaner and degreaser, and like a wax and a sealant all inside of one SKU.
Oh, wow.
But they're really rising in popularity right now. There's a lot of people with 3-in-1s. There's, you know, all these clean, shine, and protect type products. And the reason why that's coming up is because they're very clutch in situations where you don't have access to a hose, you might live in an apartment, you might be in between washings and you just need something to touch up the paint really quick. And so we've, you know, formulated a whole line of different kind of formulations. So I'm happy to talk about, you know, what makes each one different.
With our team, specifically at Barrett-Jackson's and car shows, this is like
the beast.
Oh my God, this stands out as like the product that everyone uses. Yep. And, you know, it seems like as in any industry, as technology progresses, you know, you can use those new technologies to put in something like this that makes life a lot easier. So why don't you take me through the different formulations here and kind of discuss the original and the progression of how it worked.
When you're working with something like Rinseless Wash, this is a really concentrated version of something like this. But what goes into a product like this is a combination of different sort of foaming surfactants, lubricating surfactants, cleaning surfactants, chelates, silicone emulsions, UV absorbers, shine agents, all kinds of other different things that are all designed to do a complex kind of job, which is lifting and emulsifying dirt, safely lubricating so you can remove the contaminants, and then doing it all in a smear-free, shiny way is actually quite complicated.
Okay.
So.
And whenever we're talking to customers about this product, we do this exact thing where we put it in their hand and you can feel the lubricity. Lubrication is essentially like the key factor to less drag, which won't scratch your car, right?
Yeah, so I turn towards emolliency and emollients. So that can be everything from like a soy methyl ester, which is like a natural base kind of fatty acid. Silicone fluids, obviously, silicone emulsions and things, but actually a lot of silicone or a lot of surfactants and super wetters and things are also involved in giving it that slip. And then you're building in a lot of different surfactants and things to emulsify and clean. And then you're building in foamers and stuff like that to give it actually some not really viscosity, but some actual like film layer so that you're lifted and lubricated off the paint.
I see.
Then you look towards other products, you know, like we previously had launched something like the ceramic waterless. So we get a lot of questions of what's the difference between waterless and now ceramic waterless. This is that evolution of where we're building in silicate resins and other polymers into this waterless wash to add on and bolt on some more heavy duty protections. You know, does the same kind of similar job as a waterless wash, but you're actually gonna see some beading characteristics and some protection out of something like this. And then eventually you evolve to what we launched earlier this year with the CS3, and why this kind of product family has gotten so popular is now you're really building in that true blown protection. We've built on additional shine agents, additional protection, upgrades and evolutions on the silicate resins. This came out when we were a little bit new to the SiO2 families. And this is when we've gotten to some really heavy hitting SiO2 and polymeric type resins.
So this is like taking it from pulling dirt things off plus putting a layer of protection.
It's an entire arsenal in a bottle. And so again, you're taking something that's already quite complex, you know, 20 plus ingredients in something like this, and you're graduating it up to close to 30 something ingredients when you get to this. So it's extremely complicated. There's literally everything in the kitchen sink in a formula like this. And that's why it's so much fun, is because it does so many jobs so seamlessly and it works really well. and it shines great, beads relentlessly, and it's all in something that, you know, seems so simple as just spraying white.
Yeah. I had done we have a video series called One Take Tuesday, and I had done a video on, I mean, the car was filthy. I was just like, I cannot believe how shiny it was, the clarity of the paint, everything. It was really awesome. And also, you know, cleaning and dressing plastic and things like that was even, is that the silica that's doing a lot of
and a lot of the emulsions and stuff. But one thing that I thought was kind of special about a product like that is, like, as I was presenting it to the team, I was explaining that this actually came out of the consumers in the industry itself. You know, there was a lot of talk on forums and with other brands of these products where, you know, consumers were playing the mixologist, and they were like actually taking formulations such as Waterless Wash and the Ceramic Boost and like slapping these things together to make their own like magic elixirs and their own, like, you know, juice kind of formulas. And that's actually something that, you know, my own market research and my own involvement in the community kind of filtered back all the way to R&D of like, hey, ideas can come from anywhere. So we've got the consumers literally feeding ideas up the supply chain to the manufacturers, and we're like, hey, that's actually a really brilliant idea to take something like your ceramic Waterless and smashing it with ceramic Boost to make like an even more upgraded kind of clean, shine, and protect type formula. So this one's actually kind of a child of the industry more than it is, you know, straight out of the lab.
That's really cool. That's cool too, because that's kind of how Adam's got started. You know, Adam was creating his own formulations, cleaning Coke trucks. So can you explain to me, you know, obviously you're saying like adding the protection agent of silica into this. Is there a reason why you can't put, what's it called, that goes into the robust ceramic coating?
Yeah, so again, there's a lot of confusion around things like SiO2. That's a very, very plain Jane kind of term, similar to something like polymer, where it kind of categorizes an entire swath of chemistry. You know, it'd be like calling a rhino the same thing as a giraffe because they're both animals. And I'm like, that's a little bit too broad. So we have silicate resins and certain ingredients that we reach for that are capable of being emulsified into a water-based system. And those are things that cure kind of glassy, or they're very durable, much beyond something like an amino-functional polysiloxane, which is something that kind of has like a static cling to the surface, but doesn't actually bond. When you're getting into silicates and into the ceramic coatings, those ingredients are something that actually catalyzes with moisture in the air and actually forms a covalent bond with the surface. So these are actually making a bond with the paint, and it's not kind of that static cling sort of behavior. So as we do that, you see a very kind of mirror-like kind of shine. It's not sort of the warm glow or the kind of texture that you see with like natural waxes like a carnauba or a carnauba emulsion like in spray wax. These are more of like a cold steel mirror-like shine. And they bead water so relentlessly because they don't really interact with the water molecule. So effectively, they don't participate in that chemistry, and that lets the water do its own cohesive forces through things called van der Waals interactions or hydrogen-hydrogen kind of ionic attraction.
Like you're saying, ceramic's kind of a broad term. Like you can have a ceramic coffee mug, or you can have glass, which is technically a ceramic too. You know,
metal oxides.
So, you know, I think, like we've talked about, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's some ceramics that work better with solvents, you know, like solvent as the vehicle to get it onto something, or a ceramic that can be a water-based ceramic, which from my understanding, that's more on the silica side, right? So when you have something like silica that can be put in more water-based things, you have the ability to put it in stuff like this.
Yeah, and you got to understand, so something that, you know, the reason why we're educating folks to use something like this onto their ceramic coated vehicle or bear is because ingredients that are used within a formula like that to add protection are also simultaneously built into the coatings that we develop. So they're sharing ingredients, and in chemistry, like likes like. We've talked about this in other videos. So the point there is you're gonna have ingredients in one formula seeing ingredients in the other, and they're gonna marry much more thoroughly. Even if they don't necessarily share the exact same resin, they're sharing the same additives and side ingredients like, you know, silicate resins and stuff like that. So that's why, you know, they behave similar to a ceramic, they look like a ceramic, but they're not literally ceramic.
And that's what we usually tell our customers, like, if you use a carnauba wax on your car, you should use something like spray wax, because they're
Yes.
like keep it in the family, or like
Yep.
a paint sealant with our H2O Garden Gloss, which is two sealants coming together. Or
You can use something like a spray wax on like a coated vehicle or over the top of something like that, but you are kind of getting a mishmash of chemistries, and you're getting, you're not gonna get the typical durabilities you would expect out of something like a Carnauba wax over the top, because you're effectively, in some senses, contaminating the surface,
Yeah.
you know, with your other products. So you're kind of, you know, defeating your own purpose with what you're trying to do.
yeah,
Students in the industry are gonna realize that there's common themes appearing in all these other brands, and there's common chemistries being developed across these brands, because we're all students of you know, the manufacturers and the suppliers, and so we're all learning how some of these new raw materials are coming out of places like Dow and things, and so we formulate them into our formulas, and we all see the same interactions where this chemistry doesn't react the same as that anymore, or as we build these silicate resins into products like this, the rules kind of change. You're doing molecular surface modifications to your vehicle, and your environment isn't seeing clear coat anymore. It's now seeing all these resins and all these sort of coatings.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you know, you're changing the surface and the nature of the chemistry with each application of products such as this.
Are these products gonna make, you know, doing a 2-bucket wash where you foam your car down obsolete, or is there still a necessity when it comes to fully washing your car?
You'll see when you use products like this, these are good products to kind of either get you between washings and kind of limp you along, or they're good alternatives when you don't have access to that. But you'll still see, if you try and wipe down plastic trim and get certain really difficult road films off your paint, these products aren't going to be high enough cleaning or intense enough to kind of detoxify those surfaces.
Yeah.
So these are good kind of to punctuate washes, either as the end of a wash to add some kind of protection, or in the case of Rinseless, you can add it to your 2-bucket wash to kind of boost the detergency, as well as give it additional slip and slide and shine kind of tricks.
That's why I never even thought about that.
You're not gonna have enough cleaning and emulsifiers and stuff in these products to be able to rip through road grime or really like detoxify plastic trim. So you'll see once in a while, you'll still have kind of some dirty looking trim even after using a product like this. And it's just because you really need to do that full 2-bucket wash or foaming down with like something like Mega Foam or car shampoo to really detoxify the surface and get back to that clean slate.
Well, one thing I noticed too is, like when I'm using more on the spray side of things, like Waterless or CS3, like the more saturated the towel gets, it's affecting like the performance of the product. Certainly. Because you're not just using the product. So I feel like I'm having to cycle through more towels, and sometimes I don't have enough towels, you know? So sometimes it's more beneficial for me to foam the car, wash it, and then use one towel to dry the car, you know? But that's usually what we tell our customers is, if your car is noticeably dirty, like, you know, it rains and there's full dirt on your car, in the case in Colorado, it snows and everything's stuck. It's like, go wash your car. Don't try to do something like that.
Yeah, these are for like a lightly dusted or slightly contaminated vehicle. You would never want to reach for something like these for a visibly soiled, or like, you know, you went mudding or something like that. It'd be a disaster. You know, that's definitely when you want to wash.
Yeah. And, you know, this is kind of an underdog in my opinion in regards to a product, but a lot of these are great for places such as California that have water restrictions, because again, you can just fill up a 5-gallon bucket and put this in it, and you're not having to pull out a hose and do everything. But is that, you know, would you recommend this for places with water restriction, things like?
Yep. Okay. People that live in apartments or places where you don't have access to water, or you don't have the ability or time to be able to pull out a pressure washer and a hose and everything like that. Yep. So emphasis on convenience.
Yeah, yeah. And we talk to people too with Waterless, people who have old classic cars, and you know, if you introduce a lot of water to those cars, it's susceptible to rusting, sitting in places and rusting, where you could just pull this out, go over the car, especially if it's not too dirty. When you spray something like Waterless Wash, you know, is it going on, laying onto the surface and then pulling the dirt away from the surface and like creating, what's the barrier? Is it this formulation that creates a barrier? How does it really, so, on like a microscopic level, if we were seeing it, what would it look like?
So you're kind of going back to similar to our car shampoo video, where you're talking about the nature of surfactants. Okay. So the idea of a surfactant is basically it's got a a polar head and a non-polar tail. It's gonna bond to dirt and contaminants, and the other end of it's gonna bond to water, and essentially tie dirt and contaminants to water, and then when the water evacuates, it takes it all with it.
Okay.
So when you're applying something like this on there, it's gonna start doing work on all of these different contaminants and breaking bonds and making bonds with the surfactants, which basically makes it not bond with the surface anymore.
Okay.
And then with it being a water-based system and a bunch of other ingredients in there, it's gonna essentially like emulsify it, which basically means it's gonna make a solution of surfactants, dirt, water, all these other ingredients. And then what these other silicone emulsions and things are in there for is to give you that slip when you come by and you start dragging this water solution across the surface.
Okay.
It's gonna give you that lubricity, along with, a good quality towel. You can't just use any sort of rag with products like this, or you're gonna risk scratching your paint. So that your towel and your method of how you one directionally apply, flipping your towel to different sides frequently and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a very technique driven thing. It's not all contingent on the chemistry to do the work.
Yeah.
But you guys have a full-blown video on, how to do this and the types of methods to do it right.
That's the kind of stuff I love learning about, because, like, same thing with the wheel cleaning video we did before. We always teach our customers about things, but I've never really had a lot of insight into like how it really works, and understanding that this formulation is, essentially a novel. It's like,
When I first started doing this car care formulating, one of these formulas, when I came across them, kind of like tripped my trigger, where I was like, man, we've got everything in this product. And it's like, that's what it honestly takes to make something as simplistic as a waterless wash actually work.
yeah.
It's not a couple ingredient blend.
A lot of people actually are skeptical that these are the same formulations, and what we've tried to teach people is like, the clean part of it is similar to this right here and this. Yep. And then the shine is similar to like the formulation that goes into detail spray. So you get the shine and the clarity and gloss. And then the protect is like what goes into a ceramic boost, which is the silica, which lays that.
Yep, so a product like this one's more heavy on the cleaning aspect. This is more of a maintenance product.
Yeah.
This one we've kind of emphasized closer to the shine and protect. Okay. So this one's gonna have a pump up in the non-waterless wash ingredients, so to speak. So this one you can think of as like a lot closer to something like ceramic boost, whereas something like this is a lot closer to waterless wash.
Yeah, okay.
So they're close, but definitely differentiated.
Yeah. It's funny, when we released this, it was like, there's a lot of confusion around it, and it caused a lot of dialogue. And what it's done is it's helped, I think it's helped people research it more and educate themselves, which that's what we love. We love the discussion around it, because, if you're not really researching it and trying to understand it, you end up using something that maybe you don't trust,
Skepticism's natural. It's hard because we see these opportunities as formulators to build in process improvements, less products on your carts, less things you have to build into a toolbox to bring with you to do a detail. So products like this are kind of gravitating towards becoming Swiss Army knives. It's kind of one of those for the minimalist detailer that's like, what handful of things do I need to get the job done without all the specialization or all the bells and whistles involved in this, these other SKUs? This is something that's like trying to kind of narrow the toolbox rather than broaden it.
I see. Yeah, that's really cool. That's something we talk about a lot. We have a lot of products in our line, but a lot of those products can be mixed and matched to create a more simpler process. And that's what I'm a dad with young kids, same with you, and I don't have a lot of time. It's not, golfing is my hobby. So I'm like, man, what's the fastest way I can clean and protect my car? And a lot of time, go ahead.
Someone like me, I'm a lazy detailer being a chemist. So to me, I'm like, I would love if these two SKUs could be combined, or I'd love if I can make this process not take as long. Or as I'm doing a detail, I'm like, this particular process is kind of cumbersome or aggravating, or I don't feel like the chemistries that are available at the time are sufficient to answer the problem.
Yeah.
So it's like, as we have those opportunities similar to like wheel and tire, it's like you have to have two different products on your cart.
Yeah.
Each one has a specialized job. We look to simplify products that are gonna make the process easier, faster, less bloat. Not for everyone in every case. That's why kind of the plethora of products is everyone's preferences and time. And
well, it's funny, I still even like, you know, I don't have a lot of time, but then there's that one weekend, you know, I know that I'm gonna pull everything out. And I like a couple of months ago, I just fully polished, fully ceramic coated my car, and now I'm just like, dang, I want to do that to my wife's car, and I want it. But then I'm like, oh, I don't have time today, so CS3.
Yep. And as you start to use, you know, some of the more specialized products, and you use some of the more consolidated products, for those that are doing this often enough, you will notice the differences and you will feel the differences. The specialized products do carry a lot more weight on the specific tasks that they're designed to do. So, you know, when I see criticisms of something of like, it's not as good as the specialized product, I'm like, that's by design, that's by intention.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like, it's our job, it's your job as a chemist to come up with the best formulation possible. And it's our job as Adams to offer as many things to everybody, but ultimately it's kind of up to the consumer or the person using it to develop their own routine and what works best for them. Because realistically, everyone's car is different. Not everyone owns the same car, so paint reacts different to certain products. And you know, I think it's up to us to really say, you know, well, no, this doesn't work great for this paint, but this does, so try this, you know? And
yeah, what we spoke about earlier, one of the kind of stronger tendencies I tend to notice is people understate how different products act between uncoated and coated vehicles.
Yeah.
You know, for instance, I've coated my vehicle with our paint coating, and you can definitely tell certain products work even better on a coated surface where they're slicker, they're more hydrophobic, the towel seems to be 10 times more effective. And that's again, by design. But when you go to do someone else's vehicle, like a friend or a family member, you're gonna notice if they don't have their car coated, this product doesn't seem to work as well as I seem to remember what I'm used to. And that's why some of these other chemistries have to be available. Is because, you know, once you do that surface, that molecular surface modification of like applying a coating, you change the rules, so to speak.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, thanks for all the information today, and I'm inspired to go waterless wash my car right now, so I think that's what I'm gonna go do.
Great, take it easy.
Thanks, man.